Hello. So in the last lecture, we talked about sensory inputs to the brain.
다이네 저든 담보들라 먼저 레벨 바르도 다이네 원서기 같은 데기 간데 저거 민디 걸라 계시신 바스.
And the points to remember are that there are a number of different types of receptors.
다디 돈네 템바녀고에다 네든 가시지요레 지데 가르스나네 넬렘바 리그멘도 가시지요레스.
Touch,
리서치,
pain,
나숙,
temperature,
네.
and muscle.
Temperature receptors.
Yeah. And what you learned also in the last lecture, that for each type of sensation, there are several different types of receptors.
저산다네 원서 찍라다 있는 넬렘바타 리멘도 가시도스.
Hot and cold.
저산다네 장수르다 다는 주술.
Soft touch, deep touch.
네, 다 서로 참모다 서로라고 봐서 그래.
They fire at different rates depending on which one we're talking about.
저산디 다친데 코 레지톱체 펜세 문도와도스 펜세 지 드르문도와도스.
Some of them start their firing when you start the touching.
가시에다네 두디 참바네 레지톱체 펜야 고츠도스.
Some of them continue to fire throughout the touching.
저산다 곧 가서 우리 투바다네 고도 레가체 참자 직체 니바드 가르스나 컴퓨터네 레지톱체 펜기도스.
Okay, so the sensation, the action potential is generated.
저산다네 딘딘도베타 원서 소르데 참바타 네 레지톱체 퉁고레스.
Travels to the spinal cord.
김바 버드도.
And then you learn that there are different pathways up the spinal cord.
저산다네 김바 균네 네코 다친데 도사기다 달람문도 니도스.
Some for temperature.
가시데네 따네 트든도
Some for touch.
가시데 리서든도 아이바.
But all of them reach the thalamus.
다 장마 가르스나 레부라로다.
And then from the thalamus, we talked about the next projection, which is up to the somatosensory cortex.
레부데 가르스나 네 레슬레이션라로고라.
We also talked about how the somatosensory cortex has different divisions.
다음에는 레슬레이션라 가르스나 네 체심문도 망보여 레코르라 계시신가?
It starts to interpret what just came in.
다네 코 저르에 따서도 저르에 다텐데기데 가르스나 치
Was this-
로드게 고츠고다.
Was it a touch? Was it a temperature? Was it a muscle spindle?
저단디 리서렌도 네 자제렌도 야마나 단다기 샤네기 방마렌도 그레렌도 다디 로드게 오라.
And then that interpretation sends other signals to other parts of the brain.
드는도 로드게 바디기 따네 레베기 체시 샴발라네 다텐 당고레스.
For example, you saw the experiment of the books with the eyes closed or the eyes open, right?
무슨 슈바이나 당기네 믹쯤체 렘바다 믹 당체네 데블렘바니.
If your eyes are open,
다믹 믹체디베깔라
your eyes can see,
다 믹이 통고레스.
goes up to the brain.
잔디기 네츠데네
You can
레바르도
see that it's just one book.
다네 뎁치마도 메바데 통.
So you hold your the arm, you get the muscles ready for the book to be put on.
저단다 뎁딜라이네 고야기다 이네 샤네기다 슈디 다릭체 이네 그 뎁딜랭그레스.
In that case, the visual inputs went into the brain, to the visual cortex.
다딜라 차샤바이나 이네 통스르기다 이네 차텐디기디 그 통스르레이션라도 고레스.
There are different parts of the visual cortex.
다튼 통스르레이션라이 이네 차시면도 망보이레스.
One part says, I know one book weighs not too much.
저단다 통스르레이션이 차시 찌기 가르라고 그랬으나 다 뎁치마도 메나다 이네 슈 데가스 망보땅고 말해라 그레스.
3 books weigh 3 times as much.
다이네 뎁스미 어디간라다 답순 망었땅 그레스.
The table weighs even more.
다이네 딘조다고 차샤바이나 딜레기 안주고 차와이레스.
So the important point is that information, that interpretation of the world, the visual world, is sent to your motor cortex
저선다 딘딘도에다 직된 감 거리게 걸라다 네 로직 체바디기 네 네치 상마 가르스나 구줄레이션 라탄고레스
So that you can tense your muscles to the appropriate weight.
저선다 네 코 제테델라다 오션 삼베 제테델라 렘베기다 네 슉즉 땅야게 치도 슉 다릭체게 치도 다 네치 상마라다 구줄레이션 라탄고레스
So now we have to turn our attention to the motor system.
당연히 상마다 도난 상마에 구줄레이션라 도난 체바이나
Similarly to the sensory system, there are different parts of the brain that are activated, different parts that help the signal that arrives to go to the muscle.
저선다 원서 말라 나신 카르스나 코 구주 말라라야 네다 차시문도 망보이레스 코 차시레레기다 네 거기 샤듬 구주 샤네 구주 타야라코 로봇 체킹기다 네 말라기 차시문도 이레스
So some of these you've heard about before. This is the cortex.
다들 레션 시그라
In this case, we're talking about the motor cortex.
다들 카르스나 네 구주 레션이다
I talked yesterday about the basal ganglia a little bit.
다 가장 먼저 레십 자디서야 될 걸라 테스 자이바
Remember, we're talking about now motor centers of the brain.
저선다 단단 먼저 구주기다 네 말라 걸라 계시시고다 구주기다 네 중
What does the basal ganglia control?
다네 레십 자디기네 가리를 단수적으로 so habits
Yes? And planning of movements.
저던다 구주 그 차르지리야
One disease that I mentioned
저단 먼저 tuk전juk 걸라 기저시엔 봐 그래 파킨슨기 tuk조세
Okay, Parkinson's disease.
파킨슨기 tuk전이요
I said this part of the brain regulates planning.
저단다 디 가르스는 차르지리야를 단순적으로
How to start a movement.
저단 구주도 고츠도 간라 간지 고츠면 디 단순적으로
So one of the symptoms of Parkinson's disease
다 파킨슨기 tuk전되기 다 내다 찍거려스나
I can't plan well.
저단다 네 구주도 코 차르지야고 리투문도
I can't start well.
구주도 네 고츠 투문도
Okay, so normally I just go like this. But when I destroy the planning center,
저다 균댕긴 네컵라 콤 두스 도토구요 바야나 키체 탄다 레십 자드디기 타네 구줄라 탄전 체킹기 타 네디코 쿄ンショロ야나
what was disrupted was the first step.
mostly
Mostly.
타 콤바 담보 컨디치
The first step.
타 고츠야 되네 타다 고츠 투 마레
Beginning the action.
고츠기데
Okay? Now the cerebellum,
타 레닝 디
David, come and do on me some cerebellar tests. The cerebellum is another region that controls movement. It has other functions, but one primary one is control of movement.
타네 레닝 라가르스나 네 저 젤레 만다와 같이 지어레 디난다 젤레 케침불직 가르스나 먼저 구줄라 탄즈치고레스
As you know, David is always very gentle with me.
저한테 겐 데이비드 그때 딱 만치와 나라페 가르스고레 칭냠보든 시기도스
And so he's going to show you something that the cerebellum regulates.
타쿠 가르스나 네 레닝 기타 탄전체베 기타 자와직 배진 다 배진 슈바이나
Okay, one of the things that people that with cerebellar damage have a problem with is balance.
balance. 네 레닝 라타 쿄ンショル다 네타 쿄ンショル나타 네타 가르르스나 제늄 셰투마레스 제늄 코 다다 차투마레스
One time I was stopped by when I was driving a car because a policeman thought I was drunk.
저단다 테마직랑이 다 모터 단데 참바 폴리스 카선스 쿠카레 삼선스나 나네 다 라세데 서르 삼선스
So he had me do this test, and my friends were in the car, and they were neurologists, and they were laughing at me because it would look like a test for cerebellar damage.
저단다에네 군저 쳐다체 버레스 니 로파타에네 원다스네르바디디 나라타체 고기무쇼르고도스 그래서나에네 cerebral damage. 지난데 레닝 라견슈르에서 레닝 라견슈르 문두세 다지도 차선스.
I wonder if any of you can pass this test.
지난 저다데 기란서 따네 드네도 따네 육트스 남는데 저다데 기란서 따 단투사르면 기란서기 단투고 연으면
Just describe it.
Put your foot in front of the other foot straight. No, put your hand down.
What?
Put your hands down.
Oh.
Put your foot in front. Tilt your head back.
Back?
Like that. Back. Close your eyes.
믹슨
Close your eyes.
No.
Close your eyes. Okay, now. Who can do that? Anybody?
So first, what was being tested?
저는 당보 가르쳐다 저기도 그.
What?
leg 말해.
Balance.
진용까지 제투 쓰더라.
Okay, balance. Okay? Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm doing okay. So, which part of the brain regulates balance?
저는 진용라 단선 체경에 레벨 체크 가르레스. cerebellum.
Very good. It also regulates your ability to do rapid movements.
다는 신디기는 간주 구주 교보 들렸다. 땅에 있다 구주
The other way of touching balance
들렸다.
is they knock my hands. Okay, what do you do? Okay, another way to test balance is I close my eyes and keep my arms up.
다양 진용라에 진용 그
And you
땅에
push them
있다.
down.
샴바지 가르스나 dus 믹스음체 라바니 dus 그냥 그래스.
You push them, okay?
Test your balance.
Yeah, and also, no, you're about. This is not so much balance, but to see if your arms move away. If you have cerebellar damage, it's hard to keep them here.
저단다에네 그 진용기 딱 쳐다라 말했다. 에네 딱 레닝 라견 쇼르데 상방한저 라관이도 따다 냠도도 드릭투 딱 믹쯤네 냠도도 심투고 말했어.
Another thing that cerebellum is important for is for accurate and rapid movements.
다에네 야 가서 우리 레닝기 단선체에서 야 저와 샴바지 가르스나 먼저 구주 교보 땅에 다나 좀 구주 가서 우리 즉 따다다다는 츠투보 드니체 단선체 그랬어.
So all of you try this. Touch each digit with your thumb.
저단 코네 주고 찍찍라 두스 두스체다.
And then go back again to the.
저단 무트네 두스.
Okay.
Do it fast.
교보체다. 교보체 두고대.
Okay, good.
Okay, which part of the brain regulates the ability to do this rapid alternating motions?
저단다 에네 들린다베다 에네 저와 교보 다네 신다 직 빼머리 교와서 그러 빼머리 교에 들린다 저와데네 단선체사데 가르레스 레베셔히 가르레스 레닝
Okay,
레닝 cerebellum.
Okay, the next is, okay, no, I don't need it. So the next part of the brain,
레베셔히 샴바지 가르스나
in this motor pathway, we had motor cortex, we have basal ganglia, and cerebellum.
저단다 레슌다 레슌자데다 다네 신 레닝 디기디 가르스나 따면서 구주 말라기 차시 차고레스.
And then we go to the brain stem,
다 레슌라 차셔와이나
which is another very important region
레슌디안 콘 가서 우리네 캐치무레스.
that helps to regulate movement.
구줄라 단선 체킹에 네다네 캐치무레스.
I will show you something more in the next slide about the brain stem. And now, then it gets down to the spinal cord,
테네다 마 용발로
which sends the message then out to the muscles.
다 차트인데 가르스나 그 샤네 있었단 그래스 샤넬 탄 그래스.
So, a very interesting question was, how much of this brain can you remove for you to still be able to have motion or
Which
movement?
brain?
Well, there are different parts of the brain. What happens if you made a lesion here, removing all of this?
알레
or a lesion here, removing all of this.
To be able to move.
Continue to be able to move.
ता मुतुन गुजुतान तुवेला इने मुतुन गुजुतान तुवेला रवाता इने ता गुजु माला दिगिरो इने छशि कावाचिला इने को ता तुपशवसना ता इने चेशाबायना कावाचिला चेशाबायना को इने गुजु ग्याम तुबचायदाम कावाचिला चेबायना गुजुता गुजुला ता इने क्यों मिशरो दिने ता 참 로카르 인사레스.
You see this picture here?
We're
going to leave the muscles intact and the spinal cord intact and make a lesion here. We're going to remove every part of this brain.
지난달 먼저 샤네드 다라란 샤 이네 균바 다라란 샤 당은저 카리투비아르스나 이네 거기 레버버드 도사게 랑가지라 레버버드 도사게 달람지라 어디 투샤레스 투샤데 참바타 카르치미데 안저탄다 다지
Actually, before we do that experiment, I want to ask you what happens. Let's destroy some parts of the spinal cord first.
다 담보 가르스나 먼저 균바기 차히 가시지 있다네 도샤고스.
So move to different parts of my spinal cord.
Move?
Yeah, just show. Okay, let's say we have a lesion here.
다 기제 딜라와 균바 딜라.
Start at the top.
균바 딜라 다 견탕바이나.
You are in an accident, a car accident.
다네 모다든데 답체로 다네 딜라 견쇼스나.
And you break the spinal cord.
다네 균바데 다 가서 균바데 차스나.
What happens in this case?
다데 가르치.
Very high up the spinal cord.
균바기 차시 강마들이다. 강라. You won't be able to move your arms.
Okay, yes. What else?
Gangba and legs.
Exactly. Depending exactly if it was a little higher, I might even not be able to move my head. But I will be paralyzed from the neck down.
세상에 딱깨 거기 와라 이제 장마 단다 샤링세드 차르구라 샤네 샤링세드 차르구라.
Go down about half, a little bit. Okay. Now, if there was a accident and we destroy the spinal cord,
you will be able to move your arms, but you won't be able to move your move whatever is above, whatever is below.
Okay. Go down further. Actually, the legs will still be paralyzed here. Because the legs come out even further down. The nerves to the legs come out even like right down. Sometimes if it's too high, you can't even breathe. What helps you breathe? The diaphragm. And there are nerves that come out and regulate that. Okay, so that's the lesions of the spinal cord. But now we're going to go above the spinal cord and put a lesion there. Okay, now we have a cat. They made this lesion here. So we're going to see, I'm going to start the movie. It's on a treadmill. Yeah, right? Yeah. So the animal is on a treadmill. So what we can say is that as the treadmill puts his legs further and further back, he is still able to bring them forward, to continue. But there are many things that are not working. He couldn't do this on his own.
저단다 임바이나 힘이 되겠다 제 밑에겠다 저 망고 저기서 딱 코란기다 공부nhập 두고 말했어 힘이 되게.
We're just showing you that if there is a treadmill moving, the animal can still move the legs to keep steady or in place. And if it goes faster, the legs are moving faster.
저단다 기체 강박이 와라다 단다기 코르로데도 스코르데기 요바이나 코네 강바디 구죽nhập 두 그래서 저단에 겨울에 땅 바이나 다른 강바디 겨울에 땅 그래서.
What's hard to see, though let me point it out, is that the experimenter is having to hold the cat upright.
저단다에 다시 책임데 가스나 힘이 되듯이 약게 안 되고 그듯.
Holds the tail just to give it balance, because it can't.
저단다 그 진임 차이 저도 듯 약게 안 되고 그듯. 그 소소스 진임 체두고 있으므로.
So, if this cat was lying down, it wouldn't be able to stand up because it cannot plan that action.
저다 기세 힘이 되고 많이 녀와이나 그 야란 두고 말했어.
What part of
드네도 구제도 그네 자르진 두고 말다.
the part of the brain that plans action is where?
저단다에 그 구주기 자르진 띵킹 기타에 레베 체크하레스. 레십자도 basal ganglia.
Okay, the basal ganglia and signals from the motor cortex, they have to be coordinated.
저단다에 그 레십자도 체다는 신고 구주 레심네 용에다 에네 다튼데 코니다 제투체고로 왔어.
But this tells us that even without the rest of the brain, the animal still can reflexively bring the legs back.
저단다 다지디 가르된 거스나 그 레바 메나야로 레바 메나야 한저 힘이 디기 다 노구기 토네 네 강바도스 구주 잡투가 된 거레스.
This is basically a reflex of the spinal cord.
디 가르스나 한저 뇽바기 노구레스.
Okay? And does not have balance, that's why he's holding up. But it's
그 진임 체투고 말레스.
it's a reflex to prevent the animal from falling down.
Reflex.
Yeah, like we did reflexes, it just requires the spinal.
그 힘이 코란 그마 리문도에 체도다 에네 노구든지 차데 거레스.
It's only the spinal cord is here, so reflexes can work.
저단 그 뇽바데 그 단단 여바 선자 에네 노굴 체투고 거레스.
Okay, so now we're going to make the lesion higher.
다 단다에 두비아데 가르스나 데스 야 강을 두기인스 림바 데스 토살을 두기인스.
This part of the midbrain remains, the cerebellum remains.
저단다에 바르레 갸블레스 림바 mambo 요았다 네 바르레 데코 란자데.
And let's see the difference.
다에네 디 캬버 따와야나 당기 다시 당보데다 닝이기.
Even right now you can see that there's no experimenter helping to balance by holding the tail.
다 다디 찰라 차샤와이나 코야 힘이 야 짱이기 코미 민도아.
And the cat's on all four legs.
다에네 코 강바 시간라도 랑데 투도아스.
There's again a treadmill.
저단다 거기 코르로디요 버체 육체 코르로디요 버체.
But this is a little better.
저단다 코데스 야 알레가 체도아.
Balance is good.
진임데 야고다.
The animal has now changed his motor movement from normal walking to what these kind of animals do. It's trot or gallop.
저단다에네 그 코르로디 격으로 삼바쿠 가르치기도스나 담보 공바기바델레 가스나 육샬로 차루다 육구도 않고.
So the point here is when you have a lesion lower down or a lesion higher up, more control in your movement is added.
저단다 림바 오마데네다 림바 강말로 로데 갈라 가르스나 네 구제들라 당진데 네 당진 이름바데 네 토르도 그랬다.
Now we're going to have no lesion.
다 기체 다께 마당 와체 네 당보든지 여바이나 남균 심에다 탕보 죽여 봐이나?
Okay, so
No.
just looking at this,
You haven't started.
I know I haven't. Yeah. Just look. What do you think the animal is doing?
다이네 심전디 가르치기도스. So it's hunting.
Bingo, right?
저당 몸박이오다. 몸박이었어요.
You know just by looking. What tells you it's hunting?
저당데 그 몸박이오서야기 따따로 마스나 가르는데.
It's down, right? It's not walking around, just.
저당 그치 구구되기도 하듯.
Okay, so let's see what happens.
쟤찍도 듬는 구구되기더라.
Oh, for crying out loud! Just get the movie going. This one over here.
Back.
I know, back. I'm not doing anything, and it's there. That movie. It's not mirroring each other or something. So, but don't push it yet. Okay, stop it. Are you noticing that I had trouble pushing this? David had less trouble. Okay. He still had trouble. And that's, again, a very nice example of what we're talking about. Normally, I can just push the button, see the arrow, okay? And push the button, push the arrow. But the arrow is not showing up. The only place you can see the arrow is over here on this screen. So I have not practiced that a lot. But David is very good at it. So we asked David, push the button, David. Okay. Okay. So, before we move on, just tell me, no. What did you see?
장구. 안구. 네 지우딩미래. 그거는 So the cat was hunting, what is it called?
Pigeons.
Pigeon, yeah.
Okay. You told me just now the whole story. Cat hunting pigeon.
저는 계란서 내 땅은 나라 로규 간산지 해선스 다네 심이기 다네 거기 부른데네 다 뭔가지 없습니다.
But what I was when you do an experiment, you have to observe and describe the details.
다인바이나 다지 제도 참방 먼저 다 제름기 다 유름디 다 내주 쉽다 상마에네 먼저 드시게 버렸어.
I can't just say cat hunting pigeon.
니 다스코 지용게든지 랍초고 말했어. 다네 심이기
That's the name of the movie, but now I want you to try to watch it again. Uh-oh, David. And then I'm going to ask you to tell me the details. Right now, just descriptively.
What
did you see just there?
아. 십자야 watching. So the cat is looking carefully, closely, trying to focus on the target.
Okay, the visual system is engaged.
저전다 뭐 톤스를 말라디 콜레가 책이도.
Next.
역지? 아. 레벨 땅트네. So he relays the information to the cortex, and the cortex is trying to make a decision, planning, like how many steps do I have to make to catch the prey.
Very good. So I could get down on the
Calculating
ground.
more.
You notice that the legs went very carefully. And then turn it on. David, just hit the start. Okay. Cat now will go faster, faster, faster. The gait is changing. Okay, so all of that requires what?
So control movement
And planning.
Cacophony.
Cacophony.
So basal ganglia makes a plan, and like what speed do I have to move?
Okay, very good. So, but the big point here is sensory input into the brain. And planning of how to get that pigeon. So this particular cat has been hunting for years. Has a lot of experience. The first time the cat tried to hunt, hey, come here. No, didn't happen. Then the cat got smart. It watched its father hunt. Okay, let me try to do what he's doing. And he started to learn. Synapses got stronger in the basal ganglia, in the motor cortex. He had to go use another part of the brain, cerebellum was probably being used too. And then you noticed that he learned, it was now a habit, so basal ganglia, that he crawled very low and then started getting faster and faster and faster. I guarantee she wasn't thinking about this. It was just a habit now. She knew how to do this. In some ways, it's similar to when we were talking about a bicycle. The first time you got on the bicycle, you didn't have any balance. After a few days, you got your balance. Okay, and you learned how to move your legs. When you got very, very good at that, It turned into a habit. And the memory for that was in part in the basal ganglia. And so that is what we were describing now with the cat, and how the cat is involving many, many parts of the brain. Okay, there's the basal ganglia.
The
cerebellum for balance. Okay. Motor cortex for sending the signals. The basal ganglia says, oh, you put too much weight here, put a little bit more weight here, another signal comes.
So
the point I'm making is that you use many, many parts of the brain to make this simple action. So the question then is, what parts, or what we've been discussing is, what parts of the brain produce locomotion, motor movement? So we know that the spinal cord regulates reflexes and basic, very, very simple coordinated action. When we add the midbrain, I don't know which one is the midbrain, but we add stabilization and more coordination of movements. But the most important part is the ability to plan, okay, and coordinate all these actions.
And
that happens in the cortex. I'm noticing here, this one is the visual input that comes in. It comes to the visual cortex, it gets interpreted. There's a pigeon over there, a pigeon, food. Send signals to the motor areas to help coordinate. Okay, so all of this has to be coordinated. And all of them are needed for this very sophisticated combined activity of many parts of the brain and body. So now you've seen this slide before. Again, it's the spinal cord. So now I need to ask you, I need a volunteer to come up. And to sit down, please. Please cross your leg. On your knee. Well, you know, okay, this is fine. The chair is not high enough, but we'll see if this works. Okay, relax. 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 Okay, so, is this no, relax, relax, relax. Tell him he's okay, are you relaxed? Oh. Oh. You see that little reflex? Oh. Okay, very good. Now, come up to the board. Tell me what happened. The hammer hits.
저단다 토와 슈드 간라.
Okay, excuse me a second. So again, I'm going over again the details. I don't want you to say, boop, you hit his knee and it went up.
저단다에네 키란소이디 다스코 비모간다 슈그드세 라바사 마임바로.
Okay.
코에네 디 규름디기 따에네 네츠 십타디 키란소 라고레스 다 규름 간디지 젤루 제단데.
So he's now going to teach us about the reflex.
저장님 딱 코랑기 도글 기코르다 키란소 럽티치 그랬다.
Are you praying?
포워드기 딱 규모가 슈트 참바 똑같이 방금 치료나 나는 가스리아 짜cen디
달렌체
야 다제 짜cen가 파체 아니 고 담다도 다데니 가스리아 직주가 다 아니 용바가 영체
Hold it. I need to hear what he said.
Sorry?
I need to hear what he said.
Yeah, so he says when when you hit the knee with the hammer, the dendrites receive the signal.
Or dendrites, which dendrites?
And 달렌 차튼 가기.
달린 짜cen담다도
Glutamate.
No. So, it's good. But first of all, you hit the knee, but specifically you hit the tendon.
저단다 네 그냥 비모를 슈디 참바로 규발을 슈고다 규바.
This pulls the muscle.
저단 규발을 슈디 참바 가르치고 있으면 샤듬디기 에네 탱고레스 샤듬디 탱고레스.
The muscle stretches.
저단 샤듬디 경시태고로 짱그로.
Then something happens here.
저단 딜라인에 즉 제고레스 데카레스.
What is this called?
데카레. 샤네 방마로 muscle spindle.
Muscle spindle. Okay, go on.
Tene kogarsuria di dadeni tawala tene ane di dadeni garsuri jumba bardo dogude.
So the signal is sent to spinal cord.
Okay.
Jumba de la yonche ane garsuria chiki tanda di gaba seri de garsuria zejur de garsuria tangre ane chiki kaptuk de garsuria shane de garsuria gamma de da tanche ane tangde chamba kogarsuria gumya gi de garsuria dega chiwache ane oane garsuria yonjo de gaba gi de dachin de garsuria garsuria tachen de gi ogma de la tanche ane de ogma de garsuria shane de gi garsuria do jaya gi data.
So then the signal is sent to another neuron, which receives the signal, and one of the neuron will release GABA and then go to the lower muscle and then release it,
Inhibit the
the
muscle. Will not fire.
And the other signal goes directly up to the upper muscle and then contracts the muscle.
Okay, very good. Very good.
Yeah, what this?
So what is this? What are these neurons called?
딱 원자 타본디기 민 가르세 그래.
Anyone?
Gamma de garsuria glutamice
말에 원자 타본디기 민 가르.
alele chapa
원자 타본 코랑 원자 타본 리 가르레스. 고교 원자 타본. Motor neurons.
Okay. I wasn't asking about the neurotransmitter. I was asking about the name of these neurons.
저자 원자 틈바 거를 개체 땅메스 두어팀메스 원자 타본 리 가르레스 야들어.
And do you remember the name of this?
다 디게 원자 타본 리 가르레. 바르네 원자 interneuron.
Interneuron. Okay, thank you. Interneurons always secrete what neurotransmitter?
네, 바르네 원자 타수기 네 가디임바이나 원자 틈바 리 가르려 그래. GABA.
Correct. Okay, I'm running close to, but we'll see. Okay, so now we're talking now about the midbrain.
당간서 바르레 거를 개체 시인스.
And this is the reticular formation.
어디 타속이 있다네 그 고바드레스.
Okay, so the reticular formation is critical for you to be able to do certain movements.
다 지상 완전 자초서야 다 에네 구주 직 제대 참바에네 개침부 차버레스.
Okay, so I'm going to try to open this door.
지상 다 구주 니진 버나 고디 최고 요바이나.
Okay, that was very easy. Okay,
You
I'm
know
going
this.
to try to open this door, okay? I'm going to try to pull on the handle.
다 담보에네 요와데 탱기인스.
What you cannot see. Okay, someone come up here. Come here, come here. Okay, now pull on, stand here and pull on this handle.
지상 요와데 텐다.
Are you pulling hard?
Yeah.
Are you trying to break it?
No.
Okay, now tell the class what's going on in your feet.
다네 강발라 가르치기도 이네 진짜 랍다스 상마.
공발라 슈게.
슈게우드스. So there's force acting.
I asked you to pull this, not to do it again.
연결체다스.
And do you feel anything here?
지상 강발라 가르치르고도.
Okay, tell the class what?
가르치르고도. Something solid, something hard.
Well, what you do it at home, okay? Pull on something, okay? You notice that if it's very light, you can just do it like this, like the screen. But if it's hard, okay, you have to unconsciously, you're not thinking about this, but you start flexing your muscles. Okay, your muscles start to tighten to give you balance. Okay, so that you can actually pull.
저한테는 그 든지 저것도 많이 나 그 든지 채무고 체 갑자기
That you don't fall back.
딱 기즈네 고든지 타고 따네 가서 따네 타고 요바이나 가르스나 그 든지 참바 기랑기 수국이 따네 저항이 좀 지체 그랬을 때 가르스나
This part of the
삼로 땅 무고이 토네 네 샤네 되기도 그 타고 사텐 속으로다 사텐 속으로 템보 사텐 소체네 따네 간적한다 제늄 소에게 쳐도데 샤네 되기도 사텐 속으로
So this part of the brain helps to do this.
저단 디기는 레벨이 차시 디기 가르스나 단다기 저와데 체발라 네 다 단전 체그르스나다 다 디기 로봇 체그르스
The motor cortex sends a signal first down for you to start pulling.
저단다 구줄레슌기 담보 가르스나 키라는 태야기 저와데는 고츠 그레스
At the same time as you are planning this activity,
대단 잡주 가르스나 저와데는 저르지 띵드 삼바 저르지
because you have had experience, many years of experience, you know unconsciously, your reticular spinal starts talking and says, make sure you send a signal to your legs to stabilize them.
저단다에는 가르스나 키란조 이 저와데 양다양도 체체네 곰시 탭다에네 냠냠마무 사사와 선상 가르스나 키란조 삼로땅 무고 토네 단다 완자 차초세기 단다 다 레베 차시디 가르쳐 거스나 에네 샤네 디기들라코 다탄체 다튼데 탄체 다 샤네츠 키란조 따에네 가르스부르다 타고드스 데체 다 템부 데쇼아세기 다치 당그르다
When I asked him at first, tell me what you're feeling, was he aware of his foot?
저단다에네 담보 키랑이 그 저와 제대 참바에네 강바데 철구드레스
No. But when I mentioned it, he started thinking about his foot. My foot has just tensed.
다디 저와들 앞에 디스그서 톱nhập 쓰기다.
Okay, so now we're going back up to the cortex.
다이네 레슌갈라 연결 루인스.
There is again a primary motor cortex.
다이네 다 림바 담보기 다 구줄 레슌 림바 담보.
And then, like in the sensory system,
나름 레슌 쓰기라.
there are other regions that it communicates with.
저단다이네 그 나름 레슌 나로라야 그 자신만도 망보 찍찍라 다네 고다 테고레스.
For example, send the signal to open the door.
다에네 그 고체에게 다든지 땅고레스.
But remember from the last slide, the reticular spinal system says, okay, you want to open the door, make sure you tense your legs. So another signal goes down.
다양 가르스나 완자기 차초디 가르스 그리스나 야다 그냥 고치 고기 요바이나 에네 샤네디디 코 템보스에 참바마제야 시그레스.
So, and there is a map of the motor cortex, just like the map of the sensory cortex.
저런다 에네 그 완자 릴레이션 다 삽타든지 요바나신 그 구주 릴레이션 기 삽타인데 요레스.
This map is representing how many neurons are working to move your hand compared to your foot.
저런다디 삽타디 카르템 고스나 그 계란기 강바든 들어와이나 락바디네 구주타야라 그 완자 만다와 망보 가지스키타 냠루비 톤 레가체 고우드세야 디텐 고레스.
Does this one say sensory?
Yeah, that's sensory.
So this is the motor.
디커스나 구주.
And you can see, as we've discussed before, there are many more neurons controlling the hand and the face.
저선다 에네 그 락바다 다나신 동바디기디 당전 체킹이다 완자 탑 망보슈도스.
Than there are for controlling other parts of the brain.
다 에네 레베 체시 다
Other parts of the body, rather.
수부기 체시 샴바든 들어와이나 그 당전 체킹이 레베 완자 탑 망도스.
And we talked now, one of the pathways, you remember I was telling you about the pathway from the spine to the cortex, or the thalamus rather, from spine to thalamus. It was called spine thalamus.
저단 지난주에 당기디 균바다 레부기 달람세지 콜라 당기 티스와 균바다 레부기 달람.
What would you call then the pathway that goes from the cortex to the spine?
다 레슌네 네 균바 파르드 드라기 달람 데라 카르시그레스.
Cortex to spine.
레슌네 균바 파르드. lemniscal.
No, they actually, we call it, I'm just trying to get you to put the two words together. Cortical spinal tract.
저잔데라 가르시그레스나 네 레슌다 균베 달람시그레스.
Cortical spinal tract. Now, before I asked you what happens, or I showed you what happens when you cut the sensory inputs. How does a monkey pick the grape up? It does no longer, it doesn't pick it up like this, but it can't feel, so it uses the entire hand.
저선다 그 레슌기 가서 구주 레슌데라 그 베르멘 겹쳐 그 소라메버서 샤데간라 당기 페우디네 그 라바 제타 문도 차서 담보 가르스나 그 단다기 추군름데 뜻 다 서로 가서 그다 구주 탐목이 톤다 네 주구디기 구주 겹쳐 렌투기 요바이나 다 베르멘 겹이 젤라 가르치기 뜻나 네 코직 구주 탐모디기 겹마투 차서.
Okay, so same thing happens with motor control. If your motor system is intact, you have very fine motor system, so you can pick up the grape. When you disrupt the cortical spinal tract, you no longer have that fine control. And once again, you use your whole fist to pick up something. Okay, so here are some words that you should know. Homunculus means map.
What is distributed control?
Forget it. Don't forget that one. Cross it out.
저단다는 homunculus 된 건조들와 네 묘충 라고도 떼숙 랍셔로 간저간다 지금 삽자 짓고서 어디.
Okay, so one of the things that we will be talking about in the afternoon, we will have a activity, okay?
다네 연구 결과 간조다 저거 지체인스.
We will all meet at 1:30.
다 주저 당보 단 제가라 참마 좀 그랬어.
And then we will do we will try to figure out what the speed of an action potential is.
다 레직 덥석이 격차 가지르셔 다다인스.
Okay, so there are a couple things I need to review first.
담보네 가지지 결정 제거에 내던 가지지도스.
You do a lot of walking, right?
저는 공부 못 먹고요.
Okay. Have you ever noticed on your phone that there's an app, maybe there's an app that tells you how far you've walked?
저는 먼저 laptop 커버 간다다 에네 니마르레라 먼저 공부 가지 겨고도서 다 세계 디 단다기 년체지도.
How many know what I'm talking about?
저한테 디 고고데 디 고츠선 년체든도.
You can push an app on your phone and it will measure how many paces you take.
저한테 디 년체데 코파르데 참바카르 체기스나 키랑 공부 가지 겨고도서 다다 고체제 연구레스.
Where do you ever walk to Gaddon?
가든 버도 공부 경영에스.
Okay. How far is it?
다른 르레스. 다른 르. Kilometer 4 kilometer, 5 kilometer.
Okay, let's say it's 5 kilometers.
kilometer nga이 뭐 차셔스.
And how long does it take you to go there?
저선다 두저가서 거르고도 공부해야 10주 40 minutes, 50 minutes.
Okay, let's say 1 hour. Okay?
주저 치긴 봐 차셔스.
1 hour. Some of you are slower. Okay? So David drew a picture of me.
Again, David gingi remote lessons.
Okay, we're talking about walking though.
Walking.
Walking. To Gaddon.
아니 가든 버도 공부해야겠다.
So, from here to Gaddon, okay, Gaddon. Gaddon. How do you want me to pronounce here?
Garden.
Ah, okay. And here. So you tell me the distance is how far?
저장 경사가 저래? 5 kilometers.
5 kilometers. You told me the time.
두저가서 거르고도스나? About 40 minutes.
I'm going to say 1 hour.
주저 치긴 봐 차셔스.
Okay? With those two pieces of data, what can you figure out?
다 전도 딩일라 때네 기란서 가레네 제스 파투브레스. So some say velocity, some say speed.
Okay, the speed. Okay? And so, how fast would, in this example, how fast would it be?
저선다 딜라 차샤바이나 코 격차가 저레스.
It would be 5 kilometers per hour.
다디 네 주저치라 킬로미터 가서야 돼 차로 격차.
5 kilometers per hour. Okay? So, we need to think about how we can do an experiment to measure the speed of an action potential.
당은 저 레직 덥색이 격차세 찌기하고 요바이나 딜라 다제 간데도 오치고 서래서 돼. 먼저도 차리진 거레스.
So first we have, what we did was, we can, speed times, we go
times
time.
Yeah,
Time
that's distance.
equals distance. So this is going to be what we're trying to calculate, right? So we're going to say that's x. We're going to solve for x. Do they understand what I mean? Solve for x.
저당은 좀 미시바데 가르스나고 격차도 차고라.
So if we want to find out what speed is, what could we do?
저당 격차도 찌고 요바이나 가르쳐 그러는 거. 경차도 뒤질러 보고라.
Good. So you know this. Good. So what we will do is we will make a big circle.
딱 안즈 딱 고라 친구지 소인스.
And we will have someone be the timer
미치 뒤쪽까지 되지.
to try to figure out what this variable is.
다음에 그 뒤쪽에는 지금이 되지.
We will be in a big circle and one of us will start touching, squeezing the hand.
다치기 다음에 그 누구도 셔주게 그랬어.
So what happens to the action potential that is generated by the touch receptor?
저단다에는 그 리슨 넬림바들라에는 리슨 넬림바디기 그 레주 톱체 준데 삼아 가르치 그래.
I didn't finish. So the experiment is that there's a person standing next to him.
저단다에는 거기 예인들라야 미시 심바지
Okay. Another person standing next to him.
스무트는 다에는 반딩 there.
Touching hands. Okay. So when he's going to squeeze this one's hand, and then he's going to squeeze this one's hand. And we did an experiment like this a few days ago.
저단다에는 다 무트는도 찌찌라 라과츠리아 인서다.
So we're going to measure the time it takes to go around all the monks.
저단다에는 고라 친구지도 옆에 선바에는 주소가서 거르고도 타이레스.
So that's part one of the experiment.
Part 1. 저단디네 다지기 다에는 차시 당보도 드레스.
Now, remember, someone... Everyone okay? Explain to me, the touch receptor is here.
저단다 렉처를 낼렘 받으디요라.
I squeeze it to start it.
다에는 라과 디츠르디 선바에는 고츠우라.
Action potential goes where? Okay, so I squeeze the hand.
다 라과츠르체.
Tell me what happens. Where does the action potential go?
다 라과츠르디 선바에는 레지 톱체 가오도래.
From here.
레바. Spinal cord. Spinal cord.
It doesn't, yes, it goes to the spinal cord.
Yadora. So goes to the brain.
Yeah, the thalamus,
Thalamus lebula dora.
then up to the cortex.
Then lesion la dora.
Okay? Then you have to interpret what just happened.
저단다 이네 가르총하데네 로드체 보라.
Ah, I just got squeezed.
다는 이 라과츠르송 삼베다 이네 학부라.
Another signal has to be sent to the motor cortex.
다 이네 다친 셴바지 이네 파기 구질레션을 땅 보라.
Has to come back down,
다 구질레션이야 마 렙체.
down here. And you have to, the signal was squeeze that left hand.
다 이네 디 다친 데 가르스나코 라과 연마데 이네 츠르쇼하세 드레스.
Okay? And then he repeats, it goes around the room.
아무튼에도 스치치 츠르네르레스.
And you take the time.
저단다 두조카 두조치 찌겹.
So the experiment could end right there, but it won't.
다이네 다가란기 이네 코 이네 다제데 코 살고에서로 지그레스 임바이나인데 말레스.
We could measure the distance up to here, back to here, back to there.
저단다 이네 코 두스 야도 마요이게 다이네 양타
But
창만
that wouldn't be very accurate.
저단데 디 체제데 코 이네 다다 창 말레스.
What if instead of squeezing his hand, I squeeze his shoulder in the second part of the experiment?
다이네 다지기 이른바 니바 다지기 자신 니바데 라 기제 라바츠레기 잡라 만조 다 봉바 쓰러이나 봉바 쓰러.
Okay, so each person now, instead of squeezing a hand, squeezes the shoulder.
좀더 봉바 쓰러이나.
Okay, so now what's changed?
다카리 지로도서.
Okay, the distance has changed. In fact, Now, when the time, should it be slower or faster?
다네 두즈디 두즈디 톤으로 그래스.
If you,
Do you mean speed?
yeah, well, not the speed, but the timer. When you turn it off after it's gone all the way around, will it have? If you squeeze the hand, everyone squeezes the hand, compared to everyone squeezing the shoulder, which is faster.
저는 거기 겨워요레스. 네바디 겨워요레스. So the second part is
Okay.
faster.
So then, all we have to do is measure everyone's arm from here to here. Okay, that's what we took away, right?
저선다에 가르스나 다디가 가르치제 고르스나 코는 라과 이름 통세제 고르 가르스나 디 림바 자기 당보되던 들어와 있는 군이 켜버 들어왔어. 라과 지 이름 통데는 매바다 여반이 켜버 들어.
So we will have a time.
저선안들로 뒤쳤지.
If we add up everyone's arm length, we'll have a distance.
저선다에 정말로 이따에는 라과 이름 통체.
And so we'll calculate the speed.
저선다 디기 토는 한저 역제
Okay? So we'll do that. Another activity is going to be done by David.
다네 양 최고 신발지 가르스나 겐 데비드기.
And we will show you that this afternoon. So what time do we come back?
1:30.
1:30. Everyone back at 1:30.
다 정말로 주주 당보던 책을 쇼스 냠도인다.
Leo, David would like 2 groups.
Two groups. 알레 따네 냠도 마르샤 네다 닐라 고셔게스 주주 당보던 책을 직제 네 주주 섬든 종알라 가마 종알라 직제 고셔게스.
So
they know which group
comes in?
저다 학고라 수 주주 당보던 책을 내고 메르 학고라.
So this was my last lecture to you.
다 드린 gengi 럽치 타마드레스.
David will talk tomorrow. Tomorrow's lecture.
다네 산인인 겐 데비드기 고츠치 럽치 책이레스.
But I wanted to say that you are the best students I've ever had.
다 키란성이 다 럽치 약시드 키란즈레스.
I have a question for you.
키란스로 좋아지겠어.
Is Paul the best professor you've ever had?
폴데네 그래서 우리 럽치기 약시드르베스.
Thank you. You're out of here.